All right, so here we have a lineup of the series of the movies here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about these. All right, thanks for joining us. Okay, we're going to start off talking about Predator, first series in the series, featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger. You see he's in targeting, and you have the thermal patterns in the background. All right, so the next movie is Predator 2. And he's within the city. He's up above. And there's some of the movie scenes. We're going to focus on the Empire State scene at some point. All right, and then the next one we have is Alien versus Predator. So we see here you have the Xenomorph and you have the Predator. All right. So the next one we have is Aliens versus Predator, right? Recream. And then you have them on a planetary scale, and them being like the landmass, like symbolized in the concept of what the battle entails, right? And then the next in the series is Predators. And this was an interesting series because it had involved the personal squabbles and challenges within the Predator hierarchy or what have you. And then you have the Predator, and then this was about one of the changes in evolutionary function or what have you. Predators got larger, and then some of the different sizes of the predators and some of their capabilities and strength were exhibited in this particular movie. And then the last one we have is Prey, which was, of course, one of the most favorited of the current series, and we look forward to that next one coming out, which is what we're talking about today. All right, so thanks for joining us. We're going to take a break for a moment and come back and elaborate on some of the principles that we found in the commonality in these movies. All right, thanks for joining us. Recording. Okay, so here we're looking at okay, thanks. All right, we're back. Thanks for joining us on this session of Xenomorph. All right, so we're looking at the full lineup again. And what we want to emphasize here is within this context of this entire series of Predator, right? The Predator being the evolutionary force, representation of that, of evolution. As we recall, everything about these movies and throughout our series and throughout our standard and reference to movies of modern times currently, they all relate to the evolutionary debate, especially in these types of movies, science, thriller, these types of movies. They all relate to this idea and principle. So we're going to explore that in detail a little bit more. But here we're going to reference some of the semantics and the semantical and symbolic ties that are presented, as we all have heard the term before, on presentation, on being able to discern what it is we're observing, as these things are being presented to us. Okay, so let's take a look at the some of these particular aspects here. We mentioned the concept of the landmass here in Aliens versus Predator. But let's take a look at the semantical references as it relates to language, because what they give us, the term "never judge a book by its cover," but the whole concept of this, the presentation and the interest and the draw-in, is based on that. So let's base it before we go into the formal trailers and movie key points within the movies. All right, the first thing we mentioned before was the sighting, the concept of the sighting of this image in Predator, the first series, and we know that this began in the jungle. And we know that this particular movie began with the jungle and the concept of a army-based mission or private-based mission to recover people and persons or what have you, or information. And that was the initial foundating reference. All right, so here in the next one, the predator was in the city. Right, it began with him being able to locate different types of activity of individuals of different scenes that they were canvassing or what have you. All right, so the next thing was aliens versus predator. And this was more so the parallel between the two and introductions of the xenomorphs and how their base history of the predators and where they came from and how they got to the earth and when they first arrived, when they, who they taught. These were all the things that were referenced in this particular movie. Like they taught how to build the pyramids, this and that. They, related them to the ancient gods of the times, even like through Sumerian culture, etc. All these things were referenced as being the type of Anunnaki, type of arriving people who, fostered the growth and development of human culture, right? And they practiced the ritualistic practices with the xenomorphs, which was akin to many things. Like we can tie that into Prometheus in the sense of them laying down and being in those pods, as we'll take a look at that here. All right, the next thing is we mentioned the Earth concept of them arriving and being part of that developmental phase as the xenomorphs being a synthetic development, right, based off some form of, be it human or otherwise, DNA or the black goo, and they have the special chemical name that they gave to it, and we'll look at that shortly. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to take a break for a moment, and we'll return. All right, we're back. So we were talking about the xenomorph, and here's that term. We're going to take a look at the urns or the vases that were contained in these movies, and we'll take a look at the variances that I feel that were missed and that are quite evident. We'll review those in detail now. First one is the concept of this particular urn and where the source of the black liquid is from in a closed urn, right? So we look at the melting here in the ceiling, and we look at the surrounding set design, which depicts an engineer head and the certain features in his face of the symbiology, the patterning, which gives reference to the symbolic system that may have been in use, as they were holographic language people, and they utilized these things, as you take note here, of the letters being coated with some type of green substance, which gives relevance to many things, maybe like a holographic reference for lettering and the use of the green screen, or the use of matrix-like green screen text. Let's detail that now. And then second thing we're going to look at is the concept of evolutionary predators and them being transhumanist, as they use technology, and so that means they know how to manipulate the elements and they know how to create technology. As you notice, the aliens and the xenomorphs are a technology in themselves, right? They don't use external devices or things of that nature. They're just an all-purpose specialized killing device or what have you. But if you notice, they don't interact with anything unless if it's essential or if it's part of something that's damaging to the hive. They don't move. It's very interesting if you pay attention, right? They don't move. They don't do anything unless something interrupts them. And the only thing that really interrupts them is something dealing with oxygen, which we'll detail that in a little bit. All right? Stay tuned. All right, we're back. We were talking about the concept of oxygen and the concept of these types of creatures. As we mentioned earlier, some of the basic principles of them include them not being able to see, right? So how is it that they ambulate or move around and guide and navigate? So those are some elements that we'll talk about in the concept of them breathing. Some of them have fangs, some of them have straight human teeth, right? And then the second thing is, or rather the third thing is, they their navigation principles. And a lot of people think of their fangs and that they bite and do this. There's no instance of them biting anything. They don't bite. They stab with their second inner mandibular joints or what have you, but they don't even bite with those. Pay attention. So the next thing we'll talk about is the predators, right? And how they use minerals and rocks and minerals. So this reference gives credence to that. All right. The next thing is predators that base the internal squabble, which is what we're going to take a look at shortly here, and get back to the first principle we mentioned on the alien Earth trailer and entry points, and how this relates to that concept of atmospheric reentry, and how oxygen and other elements in the atmosphere create these explosive events upon travel through these realms. So in general, a xenomorph never is able to travel. They stay within their egg and they're undisturbed always. So that's they were held in the warp field, right? The blue warp field initially from the Alien movie. Recall that. We'll take a look at that now. All right, moving along, we're going to look at another factor is they always end up traveling in a human-based derived vehicle, because other than that, they never were able to travel anywhere because of their founding as a species to a home planet. And they never had any way to travel because they had never had a need, because they don't move. You understand? They don't move about or do anything. They don't bite. All right, moving along. So we're talking about the semantics. They stab with the tail. The acid squirt if they're damaged or something like that. Other than that, let's take a few views of some of the clips here. All right, moving along. So we're talking about the semantics. Predator. Predator 2. Alien versus Predator. Aliens versus Predator Requiem. Predators. The Predator and Prey. Plurality. Singularity. Duality. Duality and struggle. Alien versus Predator. Origins. We talked about the concept of the evolutionary debate, right? So alien versus predator. The whole concept of the source of this was the origins, and they predate these species. They predate humans, right? And so, thus they came back to their origins, which is the primal thing. So we're coming up to the core of their movie, which is launching, Predator Badlands. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to take a look at that now. Aliens versus Predator Requiem. We'll take a look at that and detail some of the facets of that with the creatures and with the quadrupeds, the introduction of the quadrupeds into the movie. All right, let's take a look at that now. All right, and continuing along, we're talking about predators. It's about the origin of humankind, or just the origin in general of the evolutionary function of bipedal species. Right? So, a little bit more elaboration on that. We'll talk about bipedal species and the concept of locomotion and ambulation. All right, so predators, predating something, right? To predate something. Origin. So we talk about the concept of amphibian species. If life began from water, and we're talking about amphibian species, the transitory species between liquid and an air-based, land-based environment. So in that transitory point, we look at the predator. Recall they have to have the mass due to oxygen depletion or their interaction with the atmosphere. The predator does not move. It does not utilize any form of locomotion unless activated through an oxygenic environment. So once humans get to that point, a face hugger never moves. It would never ever leave the egg. It would never have a reason unless it comes into contact with oxygen or an oxygen source. So that will allows it to move to the next step. All right, so we're going to review that and detail that in the next series. All right, thanks for joining us. Predators. Plurality. Predator. Predator 2, duality. Alien versus Predator, the struggle of duality. Aliens versus Predator, Requiem, the struggle for duality. Predators, plurality. Family squabbles. Different ranks, hierarchies. The Predator, the boss. Where did it come from? Who's the original? Who's the current leader? The debate on their origin. So they had the family squabble, but it was determined there is a source, the predator. And then their historical reign and introduction and reassessment, a return to origins and verify their culture, their clan, their practice, the prey. So prey Badlands, right? The reason that they were able to travel beyond and become a superior species. Prey Badlands. All right, stay tuned. So that's what we're reviewing. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We're going to take a break and we'll be back and we're going to review Predator Badlands. Thank you. All right, we're back. Thanks for joining us. The Predator. We're going to take a retrospective look at the Predator and give a reference and sort of like a Easter egg, sort of, but in a futuristic way. All right, we're going to take a look at Predator and Terminators. We're going to take a look at Aliens and Terminator. We're going to see the tie-ins here and see the connection, potential connection points and relative timelines, although we never really connect the timelines. This is just referential for your entertainment, but I think I find it interesting, as you'll see. All right, so stay tuned. As you recall in Predators, the gentleman who aided them, that once they had touched down and started moving around in the movie Predators, the gentleman who had the mask. When Lawrence Fishburne played the particular character who had the mask and had learned about the predators and their culture, what have you, he had one of the masks as a reference to navigate and move around. All right, we'll talk about that in the next session. All right, we'll take a break and we'll be back. Thank you.